Welcome back to Toffee TV. It is transfer deadline day. Apparently. Apparently it's transfer deadline day. This has got to go down as the worst transfer deadline day ever. We've got Steve Kelly and we've got Sarah from Mint Culture. Never been here before, and you're making your debut on probably the ragiest day of ever.
What a day to do it.
What a day. There's like nothing to talk about, so that's why we brought you on. I'm going to start with you, Sarah, because you haven't been here to chat, but what have you made of this? The fact that, no, but like, you know, it's 4 o'clock. It's the 31st of January. Everton are in the relegation zone and don't look like they're going to be signing anyone.
I mean, we were just talking about it before with Southampton getting signings that we would potentially just wipe the floor with everyone else. And I think it's blatantly obvious now, isn't it, that the club is circling the bowl at great speed.
Yeah, it's horrendous, isn't it? It's
left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing.
Yeah, it's so sad as well, though. It's like, because it's so predictable as well. It's like, and it's that thing where people will go to you, oh, you'll get someone in, and you know what, Everton probably could get a couple in. Keir Jordan will probably throw a couple of bones at us, a 5 to 11. Yeah. But the fact that there's no joined up thinking, the fact that we are in the afternoon, the late afternoon on deadline day, and we're still scratching around, but on a couple of apps trying to find out who's a free transfer, or
scraps, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's depressing.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, utterly depressing. But I mean, it's been a long time coming, hasn't it? It's not like this is all a surprise. These are the replacements and players that we're desperately crying out for. We've needed for much longer, you know, than the last couple of months. This is, you know, these are gaps that have needed to be filled for a long time. There's no depth in the squad. There's no philosophy still, and it's just rinse repeat, isn't it? Are you heartened by
Sean Dyche coming in as manager and, you know, getting more out of the players? Because obviously we seen all the video yesterday of, it looked like they were doing the bleep test, and it looked like the players, some of them were suffering. Do you take heart in that, in a way that Frank Lampard wasn't getting the maximum out of them? Because looking by that video, just even fitness wise, you know, I remember when Dunk took over the first time, and he said that he took them saying, he said Bernard was throwing up. That's how hard he was training him, and obviously he got something out of him over those games. Are you heartened by seeing that maybe there's a little bit more to get out of them?
Yeah, but I mean, it's just basics though that we should be doing anyway. It's like, oh wow, the players are running, let's film it, you know, and let's. Yeah. I mean, Ancelotti, I think, didn't he fitted a sandpit or something, didn't he? I mean, it's just basics.
It's only because he had a big cat.
But I'm not heartened by the speech with Dyche. I mean, it's just one thing after another. It's just like a script at this point, isn't it? Yeah. You know, he didn't mention the board, which was refreshing to an extent. But I mean, he mentioned the People's Club. I mean, it's just tick the box at this point, isn't it? You know, I mean, it's just, let's see what we can hope for.
They will have told them to say some of those things.
Probably.
Make references to certain things.
Probably.
And that's what's sad as well.
And that's why we're here. I mean, the narrative is...
That's why we are here, because the football club is being led by people who think they can, not only think, but have, to be fair, win people over with narratives. I've seen it there on Twitter today. There's people, and I'll call them what they are, absolute idiots, blaming the fan base for any... How can you blame the fan base for any of this? We don't pick the managers, we don't pick the players. All right, a couple of scallies legged after Anthony Gordon, and luckily they legged them all the way to Newcastle. But to say the fans have got any part in this is just pathetic. That is like propaganda.
Well, I mean, the culture seeps from the top, doesn't it? I mean, the chairman sets the tone of the club, the owner sets it. They are at the helm of that, and it seeps into every part of the club. And I think last year, what the fans did by dragging the club through that period, I think it's almost like the club have traded on that. You know, they've taken the elements of it, the Goodison gang thing, they've taken that agenda, and they've sort of, they've just made it. It feels tainted, doesn't it now?
I think so.
As organic.
No, I think so. We saw that yesterday, didn't we, Steve, with the Dyche unveiling, and again using the scenes from the welcomes, and using the blue paddle that we're not allowed to use as a, you know, again, putting the fans, making it about the fans, show, because that's what's sad, isn't it? We who the people who the club have thrown under the bus in the last few weeks,
totally,
are getting portrayed as really the only reason to come to Everton.
Yeah, exactly, mate. I was saying before, I put something on Twitter before about these. To me, today is one of the reasons why the process should continue. The mismanagement we're seeing all across the club. We're sitting here on the 31st of January. We were told by the manager at the start of January we'll get players in. We were told by the owner 6 days ago we'll sign a striker. And I can't see no striker coming in at the moment. But the problem is, people think all this like protesting and it's going to affect the team. The team, what you do out the ground and after the game has got nothing to do with the team. At the end of the day, if the team can't put up with a few thousand people giving the board a bit of grief, well, they're obviously not going to be good enough for Everton Football Club, because Man United have been protesting for 15 years. They were protesting when they were winning Premier League titles. They were protesting when they were winning Champions Leagues. They were protesting when they had the best manager of all time in charge. So it's a load of rubbish, really.
I you know what I keep on looking. I said this on a podcast not long ago, talking about like Everton, and when people talk about Everton, I equate it to like people striking and stuff with the government. You wouldn't sit round with your government and go, they're doing a great job, aren't they? You know, it's not their fault, or, you know, you wouldn't blame someone else. People are happy to sit round and go, the government's a crap, or the Prime Minister's crap, or whatever, or blah, blah, blah. You don't blame the people of the country for the government being crap, and it's the same with Everton. It starts at, you just said, starts at the top, and it seeps all the way down, and we are at the point where what Everton fans have done in the last few weeks, or whatever it is indicative of the way the football club's been run. In fact, it should have been like this for the last, 3 or 4 years. It should have gone on after what happened last year. Yeah. After the Arsenal game, we all got caught up in it. And to blame the fans for any of this, I'm sorry, but you're just a parrot of the club's propaganda for anyone saying that. And you know you are out there as well. Yeah. You know you are. It's pathetic.
I think what's interesting when you mentioned just a couple of weeks ago about that toxic positivity, and I think the bar is set so low now, isn't it? Or it has been for so long, and we're talking years here. This is not like short term. This has been a long time coming. But with that bar being set so low, I think the fan base, we live to sort of that. We're as reactionary now sometimes, much to our detriment, as the club. Yeah. It's very sort of like...
No, you are right.
You know, a win comes and it's like... You know, City, we all did it, didn't we? I mean, you feel the same. It's almost like that change before death, isn't it? And it was like, it flips the other side. And
no, as a fan base, we've got to get better at sticking to our principles. And that's why protest, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, shouldn't go away. If you do it right and you do it in a respectful way, either before the game or after the game, and you keep that pressure on, whether you win, lose or draw, it should continue. Because I was thinking this when the protest started this time. They started after a couple of defeats, or like 2 defeats out of 3, and I was thinking, well, people are just going to do the same with what they do already, and are going to go, well, you lost a couple of games, so it's Bill Kenwright's fault. And that's why you're absolutely right. It's important that people stick to the principles and keep going, and don't do the thing that we did last season where it's like, well, we have to stay up, so we'll have to be positive. We can be positive in the ground. We can back them. We can do bus welcomes. We can do all that. But what I won't have, and I've said this loads of times, and I will say it again, I will never forgive these people who run Everton Football Club. I will never forgive the people who parrot their lies as well. I will never forget them. They know who they are. And to me, these people are finished. They're all dead men walking as far as I'm concerned. And the faster we get them out the club and keep that pressure up, the less chance we'll have days like today. Yeah. Where this is scandalous, This is absolutely scandalous. This is the same football club that come out in just before Christmas and said, we're off the FFP naughty step and all this kind of thing. And yet it's clear there is no money. Or if there is money, no one wants to come because the club just looks toxic. Now, if people want to blame the fan base for that, then that's up. Then that's up to you. But I think you're completely wrong.
It runs deeper, doesn't it? And I think it's like you've said, it's irretrievable. There's no going back from it. I wonder how they're going to respond and react to it now. And they're saying that they're not going to come up to the next game, and you just wonder where we are with that. Baz was talking about Wrexham before. And seeing footage the last week or so, and you can see that the new owners have come in, and watching that change, that progress that they've made, and there's this respect of the custodianship.
Yeah.
And they want to learn from the culture of the fan base and to be accessible. And I don't want Bill Kenwright's number, but I mean, it certainly needs to have that. You want sort of someone progressive and modern that can understand the culture and
give a town hope, haven't they?
Immerse themselves in the culture
and that
and
doesn't,
respect it.
And the thing about that is that wouldn't necessarily work at a Premier League football club because the gap's too big. But Everton Football Club could have people who work at the football club who sort of bridge the gap, and that's where someone like Alan Myers used to be the guy who did that till whatever happened, and you can have that, you know, you don't expect that kind of thing, but you want people to buy into your football club and not just play lip service. I mean, I'm literally looking at the screen and Newcastle United are on there, and there's no bigger example of them. That's a football club that was on its arse dying, and you know, they've brought people in who, I don't know whether they get the culture or don't get the culture. I'm not huge fans of the people who've bought them, but they've obviously put people into the club who do understand the culture, and it's bridged the gap. Everyone's bought into it, and they're absolutely flying. Now that they might just be, you know, this month's why that lad's gone for an Anthony Gordon haircut, I don't know. DJ. Yeah, I know. Well, that's why he's got a terrible haircut and looks like Neds. You know, you need people at the football club, and what we've done is the exact opposite. We've got people who don't like us. How can you not like your fans? Well,
they cleaned house, didn't they? That's what you said, that we just kept replacing people, but with the same mantra. It's the same culture ingrained, and I think the problem we've got now, even if the owner decides to leave, and obviously the current board leave, then but it's going to take years for all of these sorts of Horcruxes that have been left to be uncovered. I mean, it's true though, isn't it?
The club, to me, the club have been left in like the 80s in a way, with the way they run the club now. You look at even stuff like that. I know we laugh at it.
DJs, lights.
Wolves have been doing it for ages.
This for fact. When I went to Lyon, what was Lyon 2017? They had a DJ. Because I was actually thinking this the other day. Funny enough, that's good. So the other day I was walking the dog, and I just had my headphones on and I put some mix on, and I was just like, something come on at a really big beat. And I was thinking, when you go to Goodison Park, it's so flat. Same music. There's nothing to get you going. I went to Lyon 5 years ago and they had the studio. And by the time you came the team, everyone was like, run through brick walls. I was like, Everton's just, you go, the atmosphere is flat. In fact, the last home game, I don't think he even played music at half time.
No, they didn't.
And it was just this whole, like you said, you've said this a few times, it's to analog club in a digital age, you know, and that's what we are.
Well, the city's been built on music. It's been built on DJs, musicians, and like we don't. Like what does my head? And you see like in Newcastle singing "Hey Jude" at the end of a football game. God. You see Brentford singing it. One of them's in Newcastle, one of them's in bloody London. You don't get none of that.
I think the
club so
culture,
precious.
I think the culture that serve us what they think we want. It you can tell it's just fabricated though. It's their version of what, you know. It's this safe sort of and really there's so much culture in the fan base. Creatives, like there's artists, there's everyone, and the club is so like there's that relationship, isn't it? It's like they'll take sort of what they need at that moment, and then they'll throw it back
and all these
trade on that.
All these they do trade. They trade on the very fan base that they don't like all the time, or they trade on this idea of what the fan base is. Because again, there's people out there who are fans who've been close to the people at the club for years, and therefore it's like they cherry pick them, and they make, you know, it's their idea, their version of what the fan base is rather than what the actual fan base is. You know, the fan base is like, you know, you took pictures at the last protest or at the protest, and you know that's the idea. It's the fan base. A lot of them are lads in their mid to early 20s, you know, all walking around with the same coat and all the same trainees on. And
never seen us win anything.
I've never seen it, but they're there. They're the hardcore. They're the lads who are there home and away. That's the fan base. That's the
culture.
That's the culture. That's the real culture. Yeah. And yet we still trade on this idea of like this 60s, 80s sort of.
Yeah. I think it comes from the top though. I mean, like you said, the 80s. I mean, I think Bill thinks it's this like boardroom thing, so there's us and them, and the difference is it's not like that at all. No. They're not going to get anywhere, and they do need the fans.
You've got people like Brentford, who's owner or their CEO goes to like the local pub and does like podcasts with like people who are the equivalent of us and things like that. You sit down and speak to them, and and get across what their ideas are. Ours don't talk.
Director of football.
Director of football doesn't talk. No one puts any pressure on him to talk. You know, I might be being biased here, but the first thing I would have done today is wish Sean Dyche down here and have a chat with us, or get a room full of people like us and have a chat with them about what he wants to do and say, come on, let's get the fans on our side. You've got Bill Kenwright, who doesn't talk, and you've got Farhad, who'll talk to questions he already knows, and in a situation where it's not a journalist and there's no back and forth, and you know, Jazz done his best, but he's not a journalist. He's not there to answer back, and it's just the whole thing. It's just horrible.
Yeah, it's a narrative, isn't it?
Just we were talking before about transfers. Lucas, what's the name? Zhao, is it?
Yeah.
Zhao from
Reading.
It's quite interesting that kid Japkin had a lot to do with Reading.
Did he? Yeah.
He had agents. He obviously ran Reading at a point.
Into the ground.
Well, yeah.
That was his finest hour.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see if Everton's, like we were saying before, about scraping round for
We
players.
will. There'll be a couple. On the super chat, Stephen Lee says, "Come on, Everton, do something. Everton till I die." Sam Edwards says, "What is the point in Farhad's interview?" He's spot on, isn't he? Played it before. We will get a striker in. We will get a striker, and that's because he knew at the time that there was a striker in the building. The only problem is we let him out. We let the fella out.
Open the door.
So, and Mike Cosgrove says, hashtag welcome Fizz.
Welcome Fizz.
He actually paid £1.79 for that, and he's sitting there. Do you know what I mean?
Dedication,
Could have gone out and got us a Mackey's. Honest to God, you've changed since Sean Dyche copied your hair.
Yeah. 6 hours still, we know anyway.
What else is going on today? You're our transfer guru correspondent.
Well, Sean just said about Beto again.
Okay.
They're saying a few things, saying negotiations.
So Beto from Udinese is a striker.
Negotiations in progress.
It was 22 million before.
35 million.
Right. It's gone up to 35.
Someone's put 20 million plus Malpai.
Please. We'll drive him.
I'll be honest, mate. We need something because we can't go into the second half of the season. Well, because it's going to be a better half again, according to the board.
Well, let me ask you the same question I asked Sarah before about, do you think there's more in this squad for the manager to get out that Frank Lampard didn't? I mean, it's not countdown. Come on, mate.
No, because you know what, mate? I don't know because I just don't think we've got any goals in the team.
No.
We've got 0 goals in the football.
But are you like I was saying, perversely, are you heartened by seeing players looking absolutely knackered running?
Yeah, but they should have done that in the pre-season.
No, I know. That's what I mean. No, but are you slightly heartened by that? I know that's a weird thing to say, but that to me tells me there's more in those players.
Good on them.
Because otherwise, they'd all be like running around like Ben Godfrey, wouldn't you think?
Good on them, but like I always remember, you'll remember as well, like Moyes days where he's taken to Switzerland and all them type places.
Let me just answer this. Dance1211 said on the super chat, says, where are you buying McDonald's for £1.79? Well, Dance,
question.
Thanks to your super chat, I'm getting a meal now, mate. See, mate, one step ahead always. One step ahead always. And you could probably get a couple of double cheeseburgers for that as well.
Yeah, it is good to see that he's doing that. He's like making the players aware that if you don't do what he says in regards to he wants you leaving the pitch sweating, like knowing you've done everything. But they're just to me like
basics.
The basics.
Are they good enough?
Moyes done that at the start of every pre-season. How many last minute draws or winners did we get under Moyes? All the time. We'd always. We'd be in the game until the very end under Moyes.
Of course we would.
No offence, we haven't been like that for the last, God knows now. But
because we're soft, we're a soft
it's
football
good.
club.
I really, really hope he can turn it around. I do. I'll back the man. He wouldn't have been my first choice, but I'll still back him. I back Rafael Benitez. You know what I mean? Because I can back anyone if I can back him. But it's just. I just hope he can get some goals. I just think we need goals. I actually said to you at the start of this window,
It is goals.
We needed 3 to 4 players in this window. I really believe that. We lost Anthony Gordon now, and whatever people think of him, he's another player out the team. We've got 2 wingers in the whole team, in McNeil and Gray. McNeil scored 2 goals this season. I was made aware by Mike before, but
I like him, by the way.
Gray's hit and miss. Gray can be brilliant one week, and then you won't see him for 5 weeks.
No, carry them.
And do you know, and then you've got no in the midfield. You look at midfield. Onana's got 1 goal, is it? And Garner Gay hasn't scored a goal. James Garner hasn't scored a goal.
Yeah.
Tom Davis hasn't scored a goal. Decore doesn't score goals. This is me worry. I understand the defensive side and he can get us solid,
Yeah.
100%. And he might nick the odd 0-0s here and there away from home, or games we shouldn't, like against Arsenal coming up at the weekend. But I just think you look around the league and you look around the teams near the bottom, they're all trying to add goals or wide plays or strikers. We will into a
But this is the other thing though, isn't it, right? This is the other thing. And we said this in the summer. We bought a couple of players and people said, that's great, but other clubs were buying players as well. And what we've seen in this window is, it's not like we haven't bought players and then gone, well, you know what, we might get more out of our other players. All the teams' buys have strengthened, like really, really strengthened. Like most teams around us have brought 2 or 3 in. And that is worrying. And we've been beaten by all those teams already. It's not like we're going up against like average sides coming up. We've got some really tough games and they've all bought really well, and that's what's scary.
They know what they're looking for though, and they're getting players that drop in, you know, so as soon as one of ours drops out, someone just slips straight into that that game, and we've had that since Moyes probably, have we? I mean, I dare say it was even, there's just the squad is just, it's lightweight. Yeah. It's probably the worst Everton team I've ever seen.
It's not just lightweight though. I mean, the actual first team is atrocious. Yeah. It's atrocious. I mean, just there's too much. There is too many people. I personally feel there's too many people who give this team far too much credit. I think it's appalling. Now, whether Dyche change it, because it could look very, very different, and it'd be interesting to whether those fitness tests almost poor Vinny. Vinny looks like he just wants to go home and have a tea. Honest to God, there's the tumbleweed just run past him. It'll be very interesting to see whether any like the fitness test or anything play any part in the team he picks on Saturday, because you know it's the first game against Arsenal.
It did for Dunk, didn't it?
You know,
it
might be.
And
it might be a case of, well, when you think of it, there's people like Iwobi, people like Damari Gray, Dwight McNeil, Maupai. A lot of them will be looking at it going, where do I fit into this team now? You know, you're only playing with might only play with 2 centre midfielders. You would think that would be Garner or Onana, but you don't know. So it's going to be interesting to see whether all that kind of fitness stuff plays a part.
But the sad thing is though, if we'd have just brought in a couple of creative players this window, it would have felt completely different automatically. Just even 2 players.
Give the fan base a bit of a lift, because it's been, let's be honest, the last month's been horrific, hasn't it? Been in Everton for the last 8 years under Machine's been horrific.
The whole thing changes.
It's strange, doesn't it? And a few players can give you that bit of a lift and a bit of hope. And like we were saying before about, I said I think we needed 3. I said at the start, I think we need 3 players to give us a chance of staying in this league.
Easy.
And if you can see 3 players walking through the door, it gives everyone else in the team a bit of a lift, and they might be thinking, shit, I might have to start running a bit more under the new manager as well. So
that's it.
Yeah, it's just. Yeah, I think we needed 2 wide players and a striker in this window, and that was with Anthony Gordon.
What I would say is, though, is that it does feel like it, well, sort of feels like this is the beginning of the end.
I don't think we've hit rock bottom. I said that probably when those meetings were on a couple of weeks ago. I still don't think we've hit rock bottom, and that sounds awful because the club is so important, isn't it? And in terms of what it will mean historically to the club, just in terms of how important it will be for the community, the financial aspect, everything will be detrimental. But I don't think we're at the worst part yet.
No.
On that note.
No. But
I think we have to think about that.
But on the flip side, though, I think I do think the end is coming for the way Everton Football Club is run. It has to be the end, because this can't go on. No. You know, as I said, you can go on about moaning about fans and you know, protesting or chasing cars or whatever. You know, which the Snow Patrol did all like out of that. You can have a go at all that, but at the end of the day, these people run the football club, and as far as I'm concerned, there's nowhere left to run. No. There is nowhere left to run now. You know, the journalists are fully on it now. They smell blood. For years they wouldn't. Certainly the Echo. I wonder why the Echo didn't. For years the Echo didn't smell blood, but now it feels like they do, and that's why the fans have got to keep doing what they're doing. Because if Everton do get relegated, the story will go away in terms of the press won't be interested. Yeah. We won't be in the Premier League. We'll be nothing then. So it's really important that the fans keep this up, because if they don't, there'll be no threat on these people at the football club, and they'll get what they want, which is the stadium opening and then probably selling it to someone who could be not worse, but not actually care one bit. Because then, let's be honest, I slagged Bill for years, but I do know he cares. He just cares too much.
Yeah.
I really dislike the way he's run the football club, but he does care. Imagine getting someone in who just completely didn't care. And that could happen if we ended up in the Championship. So I'm not saying be careful what you wish for, by the way, none of that. But it's important that Everton fans, I think, keep the pressure on while we're in the Premier League, while we're a story.
Yeah, I agree with
and it could work both ways, because I do feel, because I've been part of these things before, if you go into the stadium after a protest or whatever, and you're charged and you're up for it, that can carry into the stadium, and you can get a better atmosphere out of that as well. So the same as when we have the bus welcomes.
Last season was probably, result of that. Yeah, I agree with you.
So that can carry in. So all this stuff about don't protest because it's going to go against us, I think it's nonsense. But
I do agree that it does feel like it's very end of an era time. It does have that feel about it. Whether it's too late, I don't know.
Yeah,
who knows?
Yeah. State Chelsea are preparing a medical for Fernandes, just 120 million.
Yeah.
Just 120 million.
He's a good player. He was very good in the World Cup. I think he got the player of the tournament, or was the young player of the tournament, something like that. He'll add quality into their midfield. They do need a bit of youth in the midfield. They are obviously aging. Obviously they had obviously Jorginho's gone to.
There you go, Paul Machin live asking for TV remotes.
Obviously they just got rid of.
Well, we robbed your telly, that's why.
They just got rid of Jorginho, haven't they? So it'll just be like for like, and he'll add to Big Ted's spending.
It does.
Pot.
The question is, and it has been, how can Chelsea? How can Chelsea? How can they do what? And maybe I've just answered my own question. How can they do what they do and we can't do anything? This is just mad, isn't it?
Contracts, probably.
Yeah.
Kieran Maguire was talking about this morning.
Maybe we should have signed Dwight McNeil over a 15-year contract.
Still haven't paid full Dwight McNeil yet.
This is
I just think it's good signing for Chelsea. I think they're building for next year, to be honest with you. I think next year will be a big one for them.
Good for them. They've got
some good players coming in.
120 million.
Imagine being able to spend though.
Right, let's do a couple of comments before we.
What wages is he on for that? Do you know his wages?
Probably about minimum wage, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Tom says get John from Skem on loan. No, John from Skem's too busy cutting Ned's hair. Alex says breaking news: the Championship are interested in signing Everton.
Wow.
Fair play to them.
Imagine the reveal. Strach will see anyone. Effin and Cuckoo has been sounded out.
Big Effin.
What else has been? I Beto says no. See what you've done there. What else is going on? There's nothing else going on. Oh, one question. Paul Power, who's just signed up to Toffee TV Premier, are you the real Paul Power? Or a different Paul Power? Are you related to Paddy Power? Or Max Power?
Bet you're not.
Or the Power Rangers?
It's a slow day.
We need to know at 5 o'clock. We'll see you then. Bye.